Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Amir's Anecdotes. Today I have a lovely guest from Indianapolis, Rhonda. Rhonda, please introduce yourself for
Hi,
everyone here.
everybody. I'm so glad to be here. I can't wait to get into a discussion. And, so many times we're just not willing to open ourselves up to our true, authentic self and our story. But you know what? When we do, we feel so much better. So I can't wait until we talk about some of the ups and the downs in my life. For those that don't know who I am, I'm the best-selling author of Crossroads, which is endorsed by Merrill Hemingway, which is Ernest Hemingway's granddaughter and the Academy Award-winning actor. But you might think, how in the world would she be on a podcast about managing money? Well, we all go through times where life hits, or sometimes we hit ourselves, and we do make mistakes too. And then we have to decide how to get ourselves out of those problems. So I can't wait.
Absolutely.
And thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here and for writing such an amazing book. And it's definitely on my list. It's right now. I'm currently in the throes of changing diapers for a newborn. But when I
Oh,
have a couple of minutes, your book is next on my list. But thank you so much for being here. So, Rhonda, you mentioned that you're an author. You're a best-selling author. Sorry, of your novel Crossroads, um, and kind of what brought you to that part of your life where you became an author. What did you do prior to that?
well, prior to that, I was running around really trying to find my own purpose. I went to
Mm.
college. Dallas. I went from Indianapolis to Dallas, or outside of Dallas in the Arlington area. And I thought I was going to follow my dreams of being a fashion merchandiser. And that's what I was studying. And then, of course, I met the first, major relationship. And we got married and we moved back to Indiana. So
Oh
that,
wow!
that was the first major change in my life. Then I got my master's and my doctorate, and we opened a business together. We opened up a advertising business, and so that was
Oh
my
wow!
um, major adventure as an entrepreneur.
Wow! Wow! So it sounds like actually all of the decisions you've made had a little bit of this lens of entrepreneurship, just from that willingness to jump into that risk with both feet, right? So going from Indianapolis to Texas, I think that's a big step, right? And then getting married, going back to Indianapolis, starting that business with your then husband, and then where did you go from there when you had that advertising business?
Well, we built it. We built it to where it was one of the major advertising organizations in the Indianapolis area at the time, especially when it came to our wonderful junk mail, where the
Oh
Valpak
wow, yeah,
and the Reaches. We
yeah.
could all of those. We grew it to a fairly large size. I know this is a podcast about money, so you're thinking, well, she must have been very privileged. Well, we had a good life. We,
Yeah,
from a income of zero
sure.
to where it was $1 million in sales business for,
Wow.
so, here we were in the throes of being a great, team together. And as life has it, sometimes things don't quite work out the way you think it will be. And that's what's so important about using resources like this podcast. Because anybody out there, life hits. Sometimes you do it
Hmm.
to yourself, sometimes it's just things don't work out, or sometimes life really hits. Well, in this case, my mother had breast cancer. So I was trying to help her and her healing.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, this was very, stressful on the relationship, and it crumbled apart. And you're going
Oh
to,
wow.
financial person, you think you can trust everybody in your life. But,
Oh
just
yeah.
your license is real important for people to trust you with their money.
Yeah.
Trusted that everybody would have my best interest and at heart. But when it came to it, my spouse at that time came to me with an offer of $6,000 to walk away from the business.
$1 million business, and he had the gall to offer you 6 grand.
And because there was, he said, no cash left in the company. You know, you had employees, you had,
Wow.
and at the time, you know, I was stunned. I'll be honest, I was stunned. And I know you're going to give me some tips
Wow.
and treats that I should have done. But what I did instead is I took myself and I said, you know, you can rebuild. This is too
Wow.
much, too emotional. And I walked away, left the house, the business, everything behind.
Wow.
And I took
So
the,
Rhonda,
and I took the
let me
dollars.
wow. So let me just contextualize this for the listeners. So how old are you now? And I know it's inappropriate to ask a lady your age, but
Yeah,
I think the context is important.
just turned 60 this year. So this has been a
So
long journey. Yeah.
wow. Okay, so congratulations, happy birthday. Congratulations on hitting 60. And now, what year was it when your ex-husband offered you the $6,000?
It was 2002.
Wow, so 23 years ago from the
Mm-hmm.
recording of this episode. So it wasn't like, there was the 1980s or something where like 6,000 was significantly more. 6,000 20 years ago was still maybe like 15, maybe
Right,
20-ish thousand. And, back then. So it was still a paltry sum relative to the $1 million business that you had. But having $1 million business in 2002, that's still very, very impressive. That's like a probably $3 or $4 million business today, or at that time. Yeah,
right. Exactly. And it wasn't about the money to me then.
sure,
About my ability. I knew I could rebuild, but you know, in hindsight, I know that there was many steps I could have taken to secure my stability. And if I had come to a
sure.
you, I know you would have advised me not to take that deal.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I would have said a lot of things, right? If you had met me back then or any other financial advisor, they would have talked to you about, how as a spouse, right, you're entitled to 50% and you should have gone after it, or whether or not there was business liabilities, right? That he was. Did you have an agreement saying that you're also not liable for any of the business debts, or if your name is still on anything, right?
It
Um,
was just a strict handshake deal, and I walked away.
oof, that's brutal. Wow. And I mean, I guess theoretically to this day, you have no idea if he had squirreled money away somewhere.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. I
Wow.
mean, I know that he's doing well. He still owns the advertising agency and everything else. But it wasn't about that for me then. But I would say
Sure.
anybody there that's in the same thing. I just advised a young woman recently that was going through a divorce, and I said, you know what? Go in there with dignity and grace, like Grace Kelly, but smart, um, Gone with the Wind, and what was
Yeah.
her? And where you just realize, because you know you need to go in with the strength at the same time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, it's at the end of the day, it's business,
Right.
right? And I mean, who knows? I mean, probably 20 years later, you can't do much, but maybe there's an opportunity for you to go back and claim 50% of that business if it was a handshake. Your
I,
name is probably still on
I'm happy. Everything's great.
it.
It's not the advised path for people. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Start. You
that's
know,
right.
you need to have a plan. You need to have the
Sure.
need to talk to experts. Those are the things that I didn't take the time to do. And I should have
Right.
done. I should have literally put it in somebody else's hands to handle it for me.
Right. Yeah. So you walk away and you take care of your mom who had breast cancer. So then what happens?
So I walk away. I reestablish my career in academia. I started teaching at first adjunct, moved myself up to
Wow.
a college campus, and then in 2009, I get a knock on the door, and it's a police officer. And the police officer's telling me that my son has been shot and killed at work.
Oh my God.
So I rebuilt myself. I'm feeling pretty good, feeling great about that, about my life. And then life hits again. And this is something people can't avoid life. There's
Yeah.
pain, glory, so you enjoy both aspects of it. So the first thing I did is I pulled away from my job. I took some leave, and
Sure.
it was
Yeah.
very hard for me to go back to the college campus because that was the same age group. And
Yeah.
and
So
so
sorry for your loss. I mean, that what a horrible thing to have to go through.
and what I found is I started isolating myself, and I started
Mm.
ignoring the mail that came in. And I know there's somebody out there that's doing this. I know
Oh
there's
yeah.
listening right now, and their junk drawer is full, and you can barely put any more mail in it, and
Yep.
you don't look at what each one is because you know they're all bills, and maybe you have the money or maybe you don't have the money. It's not real, it's irrelevant when you're not even opening them.
Yeah.
And so my first tip to the person that's feeling this isolation and alone: pull all that crap out, put them in
Yep.
stacks of what bill is what, and throw away all
Yep.
the duplicates. Right there, your
Yep.
mind's at peace because
Yep.
you've accomplished something. Then devise a plan, because then, okay, I had to say, all right, you need to wake up, Rhonda. It's time to smell the roses and start taking care of business again. And when I did that, I realized I couldn't teach that same level again. There
Yeah.
was not the ability to nurture and develop people
Yeah.
like I had before. So I was like, you know what? You know how to run a business, and you have
Right.
values in this world, but you still need that protection shell around you. So what I did is I said, you're going to open a consulting organization. And in
Mm.
that consulting, you're going to offer services to individuals and businesses that are just starting out after a large transition and change. And it could be anything from writing services, resumes, to assessments to find out what people were best at, organizations just starting, needing a marketing plan, a business plan, a leadership development. And I'd already done a study for the UN Global Compact Committee, part of the UN, on emotional
Okay.
intelligence. So I had the ability to
Wow.
people. And I'm like, okay, go out there and with confidence, quit isolating yourself and make a difference in people that are just like you, that have had maybe trauma, maybe drama, maybe it's self-inflicted, maybe it's personal decision making that's bad, and go in there and help them clean up that mess and pull it back together. And that's what I did.
Wow. Wow. What an incredible transition. So you started this consulting company, and now how long have you been doing that? Are you still doing that now?
I'm still doing it today. I opened it in 2009.
Wow.
My mother passed of breast cancer September 19th, 2004. My son was killed September 19th, 2009. And I opened up the business in October of 2009.
Wow. Wow. What a pivot. That's incredible. Now, geez, I mean, I'm in awe of what you've gone through and how you've been resilient and persevered through that. Now, when you look back on your life from today back through, college in Arlington, what do you identify as your most stressful financial position or lowest financial point that you've been in?
I would say the lowest, well, I would say they're probably equal. One would have been when I took the $6,000, because
Sure,
I didn't have anything. I had my 401k that I had done
sure,
prior to opening up the business. And then also probably in 2009 and 2010, because when you go through stuff, you don't handle you so well. So
yeah,
I wasn't even paying attention. to
Yeah.
what was I spending money on? What was I eating? What was I? And so many of us do that. You're doing all the wrong things. You know,
Yeah.
maybe you're heading out with friends so that you don't have to be alone. And, you know, you have to realize that when you're living from paycheck to paycheck, that's an unsustainable model.
Yeah.
You have to build your way out of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I fully agree with you. I know, my father passed actually in 2009, and it was December of 2009, and that's largely what my family did. Is they just, particularly my mother, just let the mail pile up, didn't open it, right? And so we were getting legal notices or tax notices or bills or junk mail. Who knows? It was all just in this pile of stuff. And that's one of the things of kind of how our legal system is set up, is that if you've been given a notice and you don't respond, that's on you. You received the notice,
Right.
you know?
And you can't deny it because you did.
Yeah.
The mail, and in today's mail society, they're even taking snapshots of it before it reaches your mailbox.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So now, actually, one of the things, because of that personal life experience, I mean, forget about the fact that I'm a licensed financial advisor, right? But one of the things that I tell people is, uh, if you are in a state like that, right, you should go see a physician and have it on record to get your paper trail set up if you can. Obviously, you're grieving, you're all over the place, but your mental health is in a place where you're not able to function, right? So you can
Hmm.
actually apply for what's called mental health disability, right? You are actually too depressed to work. Whether or not they give you Social Security, on a disability basis, right, is not the point. Whether or not you're able to file a claim with a workers' comp or Social Security disability or private disability insurance or VA benefits for mental health is not the point, but you've documented that you've applied. So you could theoretically make a counter argument whenever you kind of pick yourself back up and say, hey, I actually was not in a mental state to receive those notices. I wasn't of sound body and mind, and here's a paper trail to show that.
Well, I would have. I had no idea. I
Yeah.
I different kind of philosophy. Mine was I've been knocked down 7 times. Time for me to get up.
Yeah, there you go. You do that too, right? But the problem is that's how our system is designed. You have to have the paper trail. And we're all taught like, oh, the burden of proof, burden of proof. That's criminal court. That doesn't apply here. Here it's like, oh, you didn't pay your bill. Sorry, we shut off your electric.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like you definitely have to pay your utilities.
Yeah, it's brutal. But wow, I mean, incredible. And so you really kind of got out of that situation just by persevering and by entrepreneurship. Um, when you think about how that was kind of your lowest financial point because you were just spending and spending, what did you kind of have in the bank, if you remember, at that time?
By the end of it, right in the first few
N-
months, probably
no,
like,
like right before your son passed.
oh, I was saving, so I would probably at least a couple 100,000 was saved at that time. And
Yeah,
then,
and then by the time you kind of came
so
to and the fog was lifted.
I was down to paycheck to paycheck. I would
Wow.
go to, not want to be alone. So let's say I was going to Florida, I would take two girlfriends with me, pay their way, whatever, just to not
Wow.
pain and not be numb. Um,
Yeah.
the outcome of that, what was twofold. One, I did allow myself to heal
Good.
by going back. But the other thing is, it took me twice as long to build it back up.
Yeah.
Because I had to really think about the moves that I was making. My
Yeah.
assets. There was no house anymore. I was renting, and everything was just pouring money into buckets that didn't matter anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is brutal. What a story. Thank you so much for sharing. So then what happens? You start your consulting company, and now fast forward, it's 2025, and you're an author, and it sounds like you're thriving.
Yeah. So what I did is I started this consulting company, and I'd been writing, and I journaled, and I would do that for the love of writing, and
Sure.
I wrote. I 5 fiction novels. Only one of them's published so far, but another one's coming out this year. And I was just doing it for me. I was putting them in the closet. And I focused on my consulting company. I didn't have the money for the marketing like I needed to. So I went out there and
Right.
I became that innovative person that made something out of nothing. I realized that Craigslist was the place to go back then. And
Wow. Yeah.
I started putting the ads on Craigslist. Then I'm like, wait a minute, there's payphones out there. I can be in every major city for no cost. If I go to every payphone, have it call me back for the code, and I can advertise in every major city and get real clients
Huh.
that are real
Yeah.
individuals that need
Yeah.
writing consulting services. So I did that. And boom, I immediately
Wow.
had the amount to start building again. The point in it is that no, there
Wow.
don't have to go to payphones, but you do put a plan in together and get a little
Sure.
innovative and have some life and some intentionality about where you want to be. I found my new purpose. My purpose became not only was I going to heal, but I was going to help heal others and others' businesses because
Wow. That's
every
incredible.
needs a helping hand sometimes. And
Yeah.
eventually, I built myself back up. I bought myself a new home. I actually it's paid off now. And I just built it back to built myself
Wow.
to where I personally could feel good about where I was again. But it takes resilience to reduce not only the physical
Yeah.
and the emotional, but the financial burdens you've put on yourself too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. I mean, what an incredible story of resilience. I don't think a lot of people would be able to go through what you did and come out on the other side as successful as you are now. Um,
I
but
think I think that everybody has it in them,
yeah.
whether or not they choose to bounce back, or
Yeah.
they
I think
have
that's fair.
or they have the desire to find the resources to bounce back, because not everybody has the resources to do it, right? And maybe it's abilities that they lack, or maybe there's a skill that they need, but they do have to have a dynamic process to put in place to be able to do that bounce back.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone that's listening to this and is feeling some kinship with Rhonda's story and is going through something similar, and I hope not, frankly, uh, speak to a financial advisor, speak to a lawyer, a divorce attorney, a business attorney, whatever the case may be, and leverage the resources and the expertise of the professionals that exist in the spaces around you, instead of taking the lowbrow offer from your ex-husband and walking away, because then you can be even bigger and brighter, right? And whether it's documenting mental health crisis for disability or social security purposes, right? Or even there are services where they'll go through your tax records, right, and make sure that you're not delinquent, right? So do that. I think that's really important. Um, and that's, I think, the best advice that I can give to someone that's feeling like you and is currently going through kind of those worst moments as they're listening to this. But Rhonda, it looks like you've done really, really well for yourself, and you're out on the other side, and now you're a best-selling author. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of share with the audience?
The main thing that I would like to say, anybody out there, whatever your um, issues, problems, whether it be financial, whether it be emotional, whether it be mental, whether it be physical, we've all go through it. Remember, life is precious. And all you have to do is get the resources to pull yourself back up. You don't have to do it alone. Sometimes we're trying to lean on the wrong people, so we feel isolated. Sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
better to go outside of your inner circle to get the help that you really need, whether it be physical, emotional, or financial. When you do that, then you can build yourself back better.
Yeah, absolutely. Rhonda, thank you so much. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, either to learn more or to hire you or get some consulting done, how should they do that?
The easiest way to get in touch with me is my website, rhondaparkertaylor.com. It has the link for my email. It has all my social medias on there. All my social medias are under rhondaparkertaylor.com. If you're wanting to take a look at Crossroads, the suspense novel, it's on Amazon, BAM, Barnes& and Noble's website, some of the stores also. Feel free to pick it up. I'd be glad to hear from you and hear what you have to say. But just remember to be the best version of yourself.
Rhonda, thank you so much, and wise, wise words.